بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد باب التوبة قال العلماء التوبة واجبة من كل ذنب فإن كانت المعصية بين العبد وبين الله تعالى لا تتعلق بحق آدمي فلها ثلاثة شروط أحدها أن يقلع عن المعصية والثاني أن يندم على فعلها والثالث أن يعزم أن لا يعود إليها أبدا فإن فقد أحد الثلاثة لم تصح توبته وإن كانت المعصية تتعلق بآدمي فشروطها أربعة هذه ثلاثة وأن يبرأ من حق صاحبها فإن كانت مالا أو نحوه رده إليه وإن كانت حد قذف ونحوه مكنه منه أو طلب عفوه وإن كانت غيبة استحله منها ويجب أن يتوب من جميع الذنوب فإن تاب من بعضها صحت توبته عند أهل الحق من ذلك الذنب وبقي عليه الباقي وقد تظاهرت دلائل الكتاب والسنة وإجماع الأمة على وجوب التوبة قال الله سبحانه وتعالى وتوبوا إلى الله جميعا أيها المؤمنون لعلكم تفلحون وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى فقلت استغفروا ربكم إنه كان غفارا وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما اللهم إنا نتوب إليك من المعاصي لا نرجع إليها أبدا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Last week, alhamdulillah, we began the second chapter in Riyadh al-Salihin. Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayhi, first he started this Riyadh al-Salihin with the chapter of Al-Ikhlas. Then moving on to the second chapter, he has brought the Babu Tawbah. Tawbah, we mentioned last week that Taba yatubu tawban, it means raja'a, means to return, to come back. And in the Shariat, it means that in الرجوع من البعد عن الله تعالى إلى القرب إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى, that when a person has gone far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after being far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he turns back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam Qurtubi rahmatullahi alayhi has mentioned that التوبة اجتناب ذنب سبق منك مثل حقيقة أو تقديرا, that a person was involved in a sin, he himself, or he was a means of others committing the sin. So he does ijtinab and he refrains and he stops committing the sin himself, or he moves away from that place where he was a mean of other person, he was the means of other person committing the sin. So he stops that. So haqiqatan aw taqdeeran, either way he refrains from the sin. So when the person does this, this is the Shariat wise. And another definition was given that when a person returns back to his original state. Original state is referring to when a child is born, he is born with a pure, clean heart. However, when a person living in the world, he makes a mistake, he commits a sin, every sin, every mistake has impact on the person's heart. It leaves a mark on the person's heart. Now through Tawbah, a person is able to erase that and wipe away those marks, and then he's able to return to his original state. When you look into the Quran, the Tawbah has been used in two different ways. Sometimes the Tawbah is used when it's connected to a human being, when it's connected to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the same word Tawbah sometimes is linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, you have وَمَنْ تَابَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. And then when it's linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have إِنَّهُ هُوَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. So the same word has been used in two different ways. Sometimes it's linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sometimes it is related and linked to the creation. So now, there's two different ways and two explanations to this. That when it's related to the creation, when it's related to the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the scholars have given four different explanations. One explanation is that the person, the servant, is turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after being far away from Him. So that's one meaning, that the person is away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he's done tawbah, he's coming back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second explanation given is that a person who is moving away from disobedience to obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From disobedience to obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's called tawbah, and that's called tawbah. The third explanation given is that a person is moving away from those actions which are disliked in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's turning to those actions which are mustahab and which are liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's abandoning those makruhat and those actions which are disliked. He's moving away from those as well. There's no makruh actions in his life. Then he's bringing those and adopting those actions which are liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the fourth explanation given is that if a person is moving away from those actions which are haram, and he's fulfilling and carrying out those actions which are permissible and which are allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is when the tawbah is linked to the human being. Now when the same word is linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the explanation again is given in 4 different ways. That when it means that what does it mean by Allah doing tawbah? What it means by Allah doing tawbah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was angry with a person. Now because of something, he's become happy with that person. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was angry with the person, now he has become happy with that person. The second explanation given is that a person was being punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, now when the tawbah happens, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of punishing him, is going to be rewarding him and is going to give him thawab. The third explanation is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was cursing that person. The curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was on that person. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has turned that curse into the rahmat and mercy. Now he's showering down his mercy to Allah onto that person. And the fourth explanation given is that when this word tawbah linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is present before the tawbah of the human being. Before the tawbah of the human being, this means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give the tawfiq to that person to do the tawbah. Now, if the same word tawbah is linked to with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to that person after the tawbah, this means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now is going to accept his tawbah. So this is the two different ways that Quran has the word tawbah used. It is linked to the creation, to link to the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when it is linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself directly. Now why do we need to do tawbah? Obviously tawbah is done from a sin. Sin, Mufti Ahmad Khanpuri Samadan has explained that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to do, we don't do them. We don't do them. And whatever He has told us to stay away from, we do them. That's a sin. So those which are awamir, we don't do them. And those which are nawahi, we do them. So we stay away from the do's. So He has told us to pray salah, but we don't do it. And He has told us to stay away from backbiting, but we do those. So that's why we need to, that's a sin. So we need to do tawbah from the sin. We need to do tawbah from the sin that we commit. Now if you think into our life that every moment of our life, we are not fulfilling the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 100%. Every moment of our life, we are not able to fulfill the huquq and the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in reality, we have to do tawbah for every moment of our life. Every moment of our life, every second of our life, we have to do tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now remind ourselves of how we are going to present ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. How are we going to be able to answer? If a person has this in mind of standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being in a position where he has to answer about his life, then the person will always be very careful and mindful about what he does. We heard in the verses in the Salah that a believer, he is such that whenever he makes a mistake, whenever he commits a sin, immediately he remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fastaghfirullah, and then he does tawbah and he seeks forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when a person, his life is rotated and between tawbah and taqwa, then whatever promises that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given for taqwa, then similar promises are mentioned for tawbah as well. So this is what our life should be. Our life should be, yes, we commit a sin, kullu bani adam khatta'un. Every human being will make a mistake. Every human being will make a mistake somewhere. But the best of those who make the mistake are those who turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a next topic that we're going to bring. We mentioned one point from there, is that what are the benefits of tawbah? What are the benefits of tawbah? Many verses in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, and we have many hadith as well. One verse, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin. Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed, He loves those people who repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the word tawwabin has been used. Tawwabin means that a person who does tawbah again and again and again. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi says that if you look into our life is such that we are we commit one sin, we commit a second one, we commit a third one, we commit a fourth one. Our life rotates around committing sins. We're not able to fulfill the rights of Allah. But at the same time, we should have tawbah at the same time. We should have the tawbah. We do tawbah once, we do the tawbah second time, we do tawbah third time. Even though we are committing sin on one side, we're making mistakes, we're slipping here and there, but at the same time, we should continue the cycle of tawbah as well. If you continue the cycle of tawbah, then it is possible that we'll pass away with the tawbah, inshallah. In that way, then the verse here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawabin. Now think for a moment that, in this world, there's a person that we may have friendship with. We have a friendship with somebody, and for some reason, he, does something to you which leaves a scar. He, backbites, or he takes your possession, or he damages your property or something. But that action was such that it left a scar on your body. Now, that scar is not going to be healed very easily. We're not going to forget about it very easily. When we see that person, every time we see that person, that thing will come into our mind, and we'll just think of that damage all the time, and that scar that he has left all the time. It's not going to be easy for us to forgive that person. Chalo, let's take for argument's sake, we do forgive that person. However, when he's in the same place, in the same room as you, it's not going to be easy for us, it's not going to be comfortable for us to be in the same place at the same time. So we'll take that for argument's sake that we forgive that person, and we also have salam and muhabbat for that person. We start having the friendship again. But the friendship is not going to be exactly the same as it was before. The friendship that we had before, and the love and the affection that we had before, after this damage is not going to be exactly the same. You're not going to be able to build that friendship again. Now imagine, second time, third time, he does something else which causes more scars and more damage to yourself. And the first damage and the first scar wasn't even healed, and there's another damage, there's another scar on yourself. Now imagine how are you going to be able to forgive that person, how are you going to have the same friendship with that person. But here look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful to us. What does He say? That Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those people who continue doing tawbah. So we commit a sin, we go against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala day in, day out, one after the other. But at the same time, we do tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He loves that tawbah, and He loves that being. He showers His mercy and muhabba upon that person. Look how great and vast the mercy and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that even though we are committing sins, we are going against His commands, but when we do tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ready to accept us, is ready to shower His mercy upon us, and is ready to have muhabbat for us as well. Inshallah, we'll continue next week with more benefits of tawbah. And then Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayhi, in the beginning of the chapter, he mentions about the conditions of tawbah, that what are the conditions for the tawbah to be accepted. Inshallah, we'll discuss that next week. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to bring these points into our life and make us one of those who continue doing tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who are mindful of what we do in our daily life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to practice. Inshallah, our Jamaat is also here from Belgium. We'll have a ta'lim if you take the place. Brothers are kind of requested to stay behind as well. Jazakumullah khairan wa ahsan jazaa.
بارك الله فيكم. الله يجزيك بخير. الله يكرمكم. الله يسترجع ان شاء الله. الآن عندنا بيان أحباب شعب